Detach. That's where it begins. Not from life, not from duty, not from people, but from illusion, from the lie that you are your emotions, from the noise that says you must chase everything you feel, from the voice that demands you react before you understand. Because most men live entangled, wrapped in the roots of expectation, ego, and endless need. But not you. You're here for something else. You're here to learn the ancient art of seeing without clinging, to witness the chaos without becoming it, to feel without being owned, to stand in the center of the storm and remain unmoved. That's what it means to detach, not to numb, to clarify, to remove the fog of desire so that you can see the battlefield clearly. And life is a battlefield, not of swords but of choices. Every moment, a pressure. Every breath, a decision. Every glance, every tone, every silence. A test of who you are when no one tells you what to do. And the first rule of survival? Don't grab the flame, detach. Step back. Observe, because most men fall not from weakness, but from blindness. They react, they erupt, they grasp at the nearest comfort, the nearest praise, the nearest distraction, and they call it living. But the Stoic calls it what it is: slavery, to impulse, to circumstance, to the uncontrollable. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. This is your power to step back, to look, to see the space between stimulus and response, and choose. That space is everything. It is your freedom. It is your virtue. It is your future. But to find it, you must first untangle yourself from the web you've been caught in, the need to be liked, the fear of being misunderstood, the addiction to comfort, the endless hunt for control over things you were never meant to hold. Let them go. Not in rage, in understanding. Detach, not because you don't care, but because you do. You care too much to live as a puppet. Too much to waste your one brief life dancing to the rhythm of the world's madness. So you step back, not away from responsibility, away from noise. You detach from outcomes, so you can focus on actions. You detach from praise, so you can stay grounded in purpose. You detach from fear, so you can finally hear the quiet voice of reason beneath the screams. This is not indifference. It is strength. The kind of strength that watches the arrow fly and does not flinch. The kind that hears the insult and does not bite back. The kind that loses what it once loved and does not collapse. That is the beginning of freedom. Not the power to control life, but the discipline to control your reaction to it. And that begins with one habit. Detach, breathe, return to what is real. You are not your anger. You are not your shame. You are not your anxiety, your craving, your pride. You are the one who watches all of it and chooses what to do next. That choice is sacred, and when you choose rightly, quietly, consistently, you begin to rise. Not all at once, but breath by breath, action by action. Not above the world but on deeper into it, with eyes open, with hands steady, with mind clear, detached but fully alive. And that is where it begins. Observe. That is the second discipline. After you've stepped back, you must learn to see. Not glance, not assume, not react. See, with clarity, with distance, with stillness. Because most people do not see. They interpret, they filter, they project their fears, their wounds, their needs onto the world and call it truth. But the Stoic strips all that away. He doesn't jump to conclusions. He doesn't mistake sensation for wisdom. He watches, like a scout in hostile terrain. Every detail matters, every word, every silence, every shift in wind. But he is not paranoid. He is precise. He does not assume meaning where none exists. He does not decorate reality to soothe his ego. He simply sees things as they are, people as they behave, life as it unfolds. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "If someone is able to show me that what I think or do is not right, I will happily change, for I seek the truth, by which no one was ever truly harmed." That is observation without pride, to see even your own error, and be glad, because truth is not your enemy. Illusion is. And nothing brings more suffering than a life lived through distorted lenses. So the Stoic sharpens his vision. He removes the filters. He sees hardship and calls it training. He sees delay and calls it discipline. He sees insult and sees a man's weakness exposed, not a wound inflicted. He sees loss and remembers nothing is truly yours except your virtue. He sees death and bows not in fear, but in respect. To observe means to live as a student, not of others, of reality. To drop your stories, to drop your expectations, to drop your need to be right, and replace it with a need to understand. It takes strength to do that, because most of us live in reaction, not reflection. We feel and then act, we assume, and then judge. But the Stoic breaks the chain. He inserts the pause. He listens, not just with his ears, but with his soul. And in that stillness, he gathers what others miss. He sees patterns. He sees cause beneath effect. He sees pain beneath anger, fear beneath aggression, longing beneath cruelty. He does not excuse them, but he does not mistake them either. He sees clearly, so he can act wisely. This is what separates the boy from the man from the beast. Observation, because when you truly see, not with bias, not with haste, but with a calm, focused presence, you no longer need to dominate. You understand, and from understanding comes patience. From patience, right timing. From right timing, effective action. That is power, not brute force, but inner leverage. Observation also turns inward. The Stoic is not just watching the world, he is watching himself. He tracks his breath, he notices his tone. He examines the motive beneath his actions. He questions his own thoughts, as a judge questions a witness. Is this true? Is this useful? Is this in line with my principles? He becomes both soldier and scout, both actor and observer, living his life, while at the same time learning from it. And that balance gives him an edge. Where others spiral, he steadies. Where others panic, he pauses. Where others react, he responds. Because he's seen this pattern before, and he knows. Every external event is neutral until you label it. Every feeling is a guest until you make it a king. Every impulse is a fire until you pour thought on it. So watch, not passively, attentively, deliberately, quietly, not to judge, not to fix, just to understand. Because once you understand something, it loses its power over you, and you reclaim your power to choose. That is the purpose of observation, to create space between the world and your reaction, to reclaim that sacred gap where reason breathes. So the Stoic watches, not with fear, with curiosity, not with control, with clarity. And that is the second step on the path. First, detach, then observe, and next, you endure. Endure. Not as punishment, as preparation, as purification. Because suffering, for the Stoic, is not an obstacle. It is the forge. It is the weight that builds strength. The fire that burns away all that is false. You will not escape hardship. No one does. The rich bleed, the strong fall, the wise weep. But the difference is this: some collapse, some curse, and some endure. This is the third lesson: to suffer nobly, not with whining, not with a need for witnesses, with stillness, with grit, with a silent vow. I will carry this, because life does not wait for you to be ready. It throws storms without warning, loss without logic, pain without permission. And when it comes, you either endure or you do not. There is no middle. But understand, to endure is not to be passive. It is to stand, to feel the blow and remain upright, to feel the hunger and not beg, to feel the betrayal and not lose your dignity. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." That is the Stoic strength. He does not just survive the trial, he uses it. He lets it carve wisdom into his bones. He lets it train his temperance. He lets it expose what is weak so it can be burned and replaced with something better. You want peace? Endure discomfort without flinching. You want clarity? Endure confusion without panic. You want character? Endure insult without retaliation. Because if you only act well when you feel good, your virtue is shallow. The test is how you carry yourself when nothing is easy. When you are cold, tired, wounded, and still choose what is right. That is not natural. That is trained. Through practice, through repetition, through the daily grind of pain faced without self-pity. Most people run. They seek comfort like moths seek flame. But the Stoic sits in the fire, not to suffer for its own sake, but to prove to himself, I am more than my pain, because pain comes and goes. But the soul you build in its presence, that remains. That is what makes you unshakable. Not the absence of hardship, but your ability to outlast it, to endure without hardening, to hurt without hating, to fall without losing your way. This takes strength, not of body, but of spirit, and it is built one trial at a time. So the Stoic embraces the hardship. He does not enjoy it, but he respects it. He sees it for what it is, a teacher, a refiner, a mirror. Because in pain you meet yourself, not the self you show others, the real one. And that meeting is sacred. Do not run from it. Face it, feel it, endure it. Because when you come through it, slowly, silently, scarred but standing, you will carry something no one can give you. A quiet confidence, a gravity in your presence, a resilience that speaks without words. You'll need less. You'll see clearer. You'll stop grasping, because you'll know. Everything can be taken, except your will to endure, and once you master that, you rise, not above the world, into it, with calm, with command, with that rare, solid presence that only those who have suffered well carry, and that is the third step. Detach, observe, endure, not once, daily, silently, with discipline, and with that, the fourth step begins. You rise. Rise not to conquer, to return. Return to yourself. Not the self that flinched, not the self that chased, not the self that blamed the world for being the world. The real self. The one who has endured and knows, who has suffered and sees, who has lost and lets go. This is the fourth lesson. Rise not by force, but by alignment, because the man who truly rises does not stand on the backs of others. He stands on the weight he's carried, the pain he's borne, the silence. He's mastered the impulses he's disciplined. You've detached, you've observed, you've endured. Now you rise, not in volume, but in vibration, not in glory, but in gravity, not to be seen, but to finally see. See that you need less than you thought. See that you can hold more than you imagined. See that power is not in control, but in restraint. Because real strength isn't loud. It doesn't strut. It doesn't need to be noticed. Real strength is stillness. It is calm. It is the steady walk forward even when no one claps, even when the future is a fog. You rise when you no longer seek to impress. You rise when you stop begging life to be easier. You rise when you stop arguing with the past and instead begin living your present as if it were sacred, because it is. This moment, it's never coming again. So rise in it. Bring the full force of your clarity to it. Not perfection, presence, not fear, focus, not ambition, alignment. You are not here to dominate the world. You are here to fulfill your role within it, fully with excellence, without entitlement. Marcus Aurelius said, "Just that you do the right thing, the rest doesn't matter." That's it. That's rising. To choose what's right, not what's easy, not what's popular, not what you feel like, but what aligns with your highest self. The self that watches quietly in the dark. The self that feels what's true even when words are missing. To rise is to live in accordance with nature, not as an animal but as a rational being. To return to your reason, to your virtue, to your post, because life will pull you away from it, with distraction, with fear, with shiny things that promise fulfillment but deliver emptiness. You will fall, again and again. That's not failure. Failure is when you stay down. Stoicism does not demand you never fall, only that you return, wiser each time, to your discipline, to your purpose, to your silence, to that inner room where nothing can reach you, where decisions are made in stillness, and the soul is not for sale. That's rising. It is not flashy. It is not public. It's in the quiet hour before dawn, when you rise not for reward but because you said you would. It's in the moment you could react with fury, but choose clarity instead. It's in the pause before impulse, where you hear the voice that says, "Not this time." That's rising. It is inward. It is constant. It is your practice. It's not about one act of greatness. It's about the discipline to return to what matters, to what's real, to what you can actually control. And from that place, you become unshakable. Not because nothing moves you, but because nothing moves you off your center. You may grieve, but you remain just. You may burn, but you remain disciplined. You may fall, but you rise again, with eyes clearer than before. That's the rhythm. Detach, observe, endure, rise, and then again and again. Not once, not when it's convenient, every day, until this path becomes your second nature, until your response to life is no longer habit, but mastery. Because when you rise often enough, you begin to see that life was never about climbing above. It was about returning within, where you were free all along. And that is the fourth lesson. What do you do once you've risen? You don't rush, you don't conquer, you don't announce, you simply live with precision. This is the fifth lesson. Live with quiet integrity, because after the flame comes form. After the fight comes focus. After the collapse and the rise, there is no need for noise, only consistency, only clarity, only the calm presence of a man who knows what matters and acts like it. Most men never get here. They rise once and fall again harder. Why? Because they think the rising was the goal. It's not. Staying risen, that's the work. Not once. Not for a season. Every day, every moment, every breath, when no one's watching, when no one's thanking, when everything feels flat and repetitive and thankless. Still, you do what is right. Because what is right isn't based on novelty, it is based on virtue. And virtue doesn't need excitement, it just needs commitment. The Stoic commits, quietly, completely. He sharpens his mind like a blade, not for show, but for use. He cleans his thoughts like armor, not to impress, but to endure. He disciplines his speech like a craftsman, shaping each word as if it might be his last. Because it might be. Marcus Aurelius said, "Let each thing you would do, say, or intend be like that of a dying man." That's not morbidity. It's urgency. The right kind. Not panic. Not pressure. Presence. To live as if this moment matters, because it does. To do what you're doing as if it were your purpose, because right now, it is. That's integrity. Not just being good when eyes are on you. Being unchangeable when the world around you shifts. Being unshaken, not because you're cold, but because you're clear. Because your compass isn't bent by mood, or market, or mistake. It points true. And when it wavers, you return. That's the rhythm now. Not chasing, not fixing, not running. Returning. To the principles you've chosen, to the posture you've earned, to the way of life that brings peace not by avoiding pain, but by walking through it with honor. You know what to do, so do it. Don't debate it. Don't delay it. Don't dilute it. Do it. Not for applause, not for legacy, for alignment. That is enough. It is always enough. Because a man who lives in alignment with his values, his word, his reason, lives free, not from difficulty, free from regret, free from the rot of self-betrayal, free from the slow poison of knowing what is right and not doing it. And in that freedom, something rare grows. Peace, not the kind sold in books, the kind built in sweat. Peace that stands when everything shakes. Peace that is earned, like a scar, after trial, after discipline, after silence. Because this is not the peace of the beginner. This is the peace of the builder. You have built this by detaching, by observing, by enduring, by rising. Now build deeper in your habits, in your words, in your gaze, in how you walk through the smallest moments. Make your life a monument to consistency, not to perfection, to principle. Even when no one sees. Especially then, because that's when the soul speaks loudest, not in the crowd but in the quiet. And if your soul could speak right now, what would it ask of you? It wouldn't ask you to win. It would ask you to be steady, to be clear, to act with care, with precision, with calm, to not waste what life has given you, not another breath, Not another hour, not another moment lost in noise. Just this. Live as if virtue is your home, because once it is, no one can take that from you. And that is the fifth lesson. Stillness. Not the stillness of nothingness. The stillness of mastery. The stillness of the mountain that has seen 1,000 storms and does not move. The stillness of the warrior who has fought his war and now sits quietly. Not in retreat, but in reign. This is the sixth lesson. Find the stillness within and let it lead everything. Because after the rise, after the fire, after the discipline and pain and rebuilding, comes this question. Can you be still? Not because you've given up, but because you no longer need to chase. Can you sit in a room alone and not be devoured by your own thoughts? Can you face the quiet and not rush to fill it? Can you slow your steps, your voice, your breath, and still feel whole? The Stoic doesn't seek noise, he doesn't need distraction. He understands that stillness isn't a luxury, it's a necessity. Because in the noise, you forget. In the rush, you lose shape. In the speed of the world, always pulling, always prodding, always screaming more, and the man who does not know how to stop and becomes hollow. But the man who can be still remains full of choice, full of reason, full of presence. That's the test. Not whether you can conquer chaos, but whether chaos can enter your life and you still move slowly, speak softly, breathe deeply, act rightly. Because the fire outside means nothing if your center is intact. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul. But that retreat must be built, brick by brick, habit by habit, refusal by refusal. The refusal to overreact, the refusal to overconsume, the refusal to rush into noise when you should be listening to silence. Because silence isn't absence, it's invitation to listen, to reflect, to return." The Stoic uses silence the way a craftsman uses a chisel, not to escape, to shape. He shapes his thoughts through quiet. He sharpens his vision through slowing down. He deepens his discipline by choosing to do less, but mean more. Because this world will try to scatter you. It will offer 1,000 things to care about, most of them meaningless. It will reward urgency. It will glorify movement. But the Stoic knows, speed does not mean depth. Noise does not mean truth, and popularity does not mean value. So he steps back, he subtracts, he simplifies, he declutters his space, his mind, his day. Not to live in absence, to live in essence. That's what stillness gives you. Access to what actually matters. You don't find your values in a crowd. You find them in quiet. You don't hear your conscience in chaos. You hear it when everything else is turned down, and you don't master your life by doing more. You master it by doing what's necessary, and nothing else. This is the paradox. The strongest men do less, but with more intention, fewer words, more weight, fewer actions, more alignment, fewer needs, more freedom. Stillness is not weakness, it is command. It is the quiet confidence that comes from not needing the world to behave in order to be at peace. It is the composure of a soul that knows, I've faced the fire, I've walked through the noise, I've carried the weight. Now I choose my steps, and I choose them in silence. That is rare. That is strength. That is the kind of presence that cannot be ignored. Not because it shouts, but because it never flinches. You want to be untouchable? Start with stillness, because no one can disrupt a man who has chosen not to react. No one can rattle a mind that has trained itself to observe, to breathe, to wait. No one can tempt a soul that already has enough. So stop chasing, stop grasping, stop apologizing for moving slowly. Let others run. Let others drown in speed. You move like stone, deliberate, rooted, calm. And in that calm, you'll find clarity. And in that clarity, you'll find your next right move. And that is the sixth lesson. Freedom. That's what everyone says they want, but few understand what it actually means, because most people confuse freedom with indulgence. They think it's doing what you want, when you want, how you want. But that's not freedom. That's addiction. Wearing the mask of liberty. Real freedom, it's mastery. It's the ability to say no, even when your whole body screams yes. It's the power to endure discomfort without reaching for escape. It's the stillness to choose rightly, not react impulsively. And this is the seventh lesson. You are free only when nothing owns you. Not fear, not pleasure, not outcome. This is the lesson the Stoics etched into every action. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." Not master of the world, not master of others, master of self. Because the world will never belong to you. Circumstances won't bend to your convenience. People won't always act justly. But your mind, your values, your actions, those are yours. And if you do not rule them, something else will. Comfort, anger, lust, greed, approval. And the man who chases those things is not free. He is owned by the need to be admired, by the fear of being misunderstood, by the ache to be validated by things that have no soul. But the Stoic breaks the chain. He says, "I do not need to be applauded to be right. I do not need ease to act with energy. I do not need results to remain in motion." That is freedom. To act from principle, not payoff. To live by reason, not reaction. To stand alone and still be whole. But it is not given. It is trained. Freedom is a muscle, and it is strengthened every time you do what is right, not what is easy. Every time you delay gratification, every time you resist distraction, every time you speak truth without dressing it up in flattery. The world will test you. It will offer comfort at the price of your integrity. It will offer pleasure at the cost of your self-respect. It will offer shortcuts and with strings attached to your soul. And every time you say no, every time you remain still in the presence of pressure, every time you act in alignment with your deeper self, you break another link in the invisible chain, until one day, you feel it. That lightness, that sovereignty, that quiet confidence that says, "I own myself." And that is enough. You no longer need to force the world to fit you. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You no longer seek to control everything. You are free because you are disciplined. Free because you are detached. Free because you have seen through the lie of more and chosen the truth of enough. The truth that enough is not a place. It is a posture. Enough is when your actions match your values. Enough is when your soul is not split between who you are and who you pretend to be. Enough is when you could lose everything outside of you and still remain intact. That is the power the Stoics lived by. That is the kind of man who walks without fear, because he fears only one thing: to betray himself. That's what true slavery is. Not chains, but contradiction. To know what is right and not do it. To carry a conscience that you mute. To live a life that demands applause, because you cannot hear the quiet voice of self-respect anymore. But that voice is still there. And if you return to it through silence, through honesty, through discomfort embraced instead of avoided, it will grow stronger, and you will too. Until you don't need freedom from the world, because you carry it within you. And that is the seventh lesson. Love your fate, not endure it, not accept it begrudgingly. Love it. That is the eighth lesson. Amor fati. To not just tolerate what happens, but to embrace it as necessary, as yours, as the sculptor of your soul. Most people fight reality. They argue with the past. They protest the present. They live in a constant state of resistance. This shouldn't have happened. They shouldn't have left. I should have been further by now. But the Stoic knows the universe does not bend to your preferences. It doesn't consult your plans. It doesn't apologize. And once you realize this, once you stop expecting life to make sense on your terms, you stop suffering unnecessarily, because pain is part of life. But suffering, that extra layer of agony, comes from wishing what is were something else. You cannot control the storm, but you can control your posture in it. You cannot control what left, but you can choose how you hold space for what remains. You cannot control what time has taken, but you can give your full attention to what time has left you with, right here, right now. Amor fati means this. Everything that has happened was meant to shape me. The loss? It carved depth. The betrayal? It stripped illusion. The delay? It taught patience. The fall? It humbled ego. The failure? It pointed the way to true mastery. Even the heartbreak, yes, even that was a scalpel, cutting away what you thought love was, so you could begin to understand what it really is. This is not passivity, this is power, because when you stop wishing for things to be different, you reclaim the energy you've wasted on bitterness. You turn toward life, not as victim, but as partner. You say, this is what I have. This is what is mine to carry, and I will carry it well. That is strength. That is peace. Not from ease, from alignment. It doesn't mean you don't grieve. You do. But you don't curse the grief. You honor it. You walk with it. You let it deepen you, not destroy you. You let it stretch your soul until it can contain more than just joy, but sorrow too, because a full life is not made of constant pleasure. It is made of truth, and truth includes everything. Marcus Aurelius faced plague, war, the death of children, and the decay of empire. And still he wrote, "A blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it." Not some things, everything. So you make your life into that fire. Whatever is thrown, you use it. Whatever breaks, you grow through it. Whatever arrives, you say, this too is part of the path. And slowly, your resentment dissolves. Your anger quiets. Your heart stops asking, why me, and starts saying, thank you, I see now. This is not easy. It is sacred. It is the act of turning wounds into wisdom, scars into symbols of your survival, obstacles into your training. Everything, fuel. Everything, form. That is amor fati. To live so deeply in accordance with what is, that you begin to see the beauty in even the broken things, not because they're pretty, but because they're part of the whole. Because they matter. Because they shaped you. because they led you here. And here, this breath, this hour, this lesson is yours. Use it, not in spite of your fate, because of it, because it brought you something softer, something stronger, something no comfort ever gave you, a soul that bows to no one but reason, a heart that is open but anchored, life that no longer clings to fantasy because it has found power in truth. That is the 8th lesson. Solitude, not loneliness, not exile. Solitude, the sacred state of walking alone because the path is yours. This is the 9th lesson. Learn to walk alone. Not because you must, but because truth rarely travels in crowds. You will not be understood. Not always, not often. Because the deeper you go into clarity, the fewer voices can follow. The quieter you become, the more noise you'll notice around you. The more precise your actions, the more vague others will appear, and the more you live by principle, not pleasure, the more you will seem distant, cold, strange. Let them think so. That is the cost of integrity, and integrity is worth it. Because peace is not found in being surrounded. It is found in not needing to be. You must learn this. Because the Stoic path is not crowded. It is narrow. It is disciplined. It is clean of illusion, ego, and the need to be seen, and that makes it lonely. Not because you are alone in truth, but because so many choose comfort over it. Noise over silence. Followers over character. But you know the price. You've tasted the emptiness of chasing approval. You've seen how fragile a man becomes when his peace depends on praise. So now you walk differently, not with bitterness, with resolve. You no longer explain yourself to everyone. You no longer water down your words so others feel safe. You speak the truth, gently but firmly, and let it land where it may. You act rightly, even if no one claps, even if no one sees, even if someone mocks it, because right is right, even in silence, even in shadow, even when it costs. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." That's it. No need for announcement. No need for approval. Just the quiet discipline of showing up every single day, aligned, clean, steady. That is the Stoic way. Not to isolate yourself from the world, but to be independent in your values within it. To walk through the crowd, untouched by its madness, to hear the noise and choose silence, to be surrounded by opinion, and still hold to your reason. That's strength, not the strength of conquest, the strength of self-possession. To be your own compass, to be your own counsel, to know the difference between what is essential and what is noise dressed up as necessity, and to walk, even when no one else joins you, because most won't. They'll choose the easier way, the louder way, the way paved with validation and applause, but you walk the way of clarity. And clarity, at first, isolates, until you realize this is not punishment, this is purification. You are not being cut off, you are being refined. You are not losing people, you are finding your own company, and learning to love it. Because when you can sit with yourself in stillness, in honesty, in truth, and feel complete, then nothing can enslave you. Not boredom, not loneliness, not the ache to be known, because you already know yourself, and that is enough. You are not perfect, you are not finished, but you are honest, and that makes you whole. Let others misunderstand. Let them turn away. Let the circle shrink. You remain, rooted in principle, alive in silence, focused on what is within your control. Because in the end, when everything else is stripped away, when the crowds disappear, when the noise fades, when you lie alone with your final breath and you will face yourself, and only one question will matter. Did I live aligned with who I claim to be? If yes, you were never alone. You were accompanied, every step, by your own integrity, and that is a companion greater than any crowd. That is the 9th lesson. Death, the most feared word, the most denied truth, the one certainty that most live as if it will never come. But the Stoic, he greets it. He does not flinch, he does not run, he does not pretend, because he understands. To live rightly, you must live with death in the room. This is the 10th lesson. Remember death, not to fear it, but to wake up. Memento mori. Remember, you must die. Not someday, any day, not far away, possibly soon. And in that possibility, if you're brave enough to look at it directly, is the most precious gift of all, urgency, because nothing sharpens the soul like realizing it is on borrowed time. Nothing cleans the heart like the knowledge that this breath, this hour, this look, this moment might be your last, not as theory, as fact. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." This is not a call to panic. It is a call to focus, to clean your life of waste, to cut away what doesn't matter, to leave no kind word unsaid, to leave no right act undone. Because you don't own time, you borrow it. And every second you spend in resentment, in hesitation, in waiting for the perfect moment, is a second you will not get back. Most people waste their lives in fragments. They die in pieces. One compromise here, one excuse there, 1,000 little surrenders to fear, to comfort, to distraction, and then it's over. But the Stoic, he lives awake. He knows the hour is late, and so he speaks carefully. He acts intentionally. He forgives quickly. He moves boldly, because he does not need more time. He only needs to not waste the time he has. Think of your own death, not to scare yourself. 2. Clarify. Would you still be angry if you knew this was your last day? Would you still scroll? Would you still delay the difficult conversation? Would you still ignore the people you love? Would you still postpone the act of courage? If the answer is no, then you already know what needs to change. Let death be your compass. Let it narrow your focus. Let it sweep away the noise, because nothing is clearer than the edge of the cliff. There, everything fake falls away, only the real remains. And if you have lived well, with virtue, with clarity, with discipline, then you do not fear death. You meet it, not with applause, not with resistance, with a bow, with a breath, with the quiet strength of a man who says, "I lived. I chose what was right, not what was easy. I was not perfect, but I was present. I did not waste what was given to me." That is the Stoic's peace, not from avoiding death, from living with it in mind. Because when you remember that your time is limited, your choices become limitless. You stop needing to be liked. You stop chasing things you can't take with you. You stop waiting for a sign. You become the sign. The man who lives with death beside him is immune to triviality. He is immune to vanity. He is immune to the temptation to postpone what is sacred for what is convenient. He acts now, speaks now, lives now, because death is not far, but neither is life. It is right here, in your hands, in your breath, in your next move. So choose. Live like the end could come today, not with fear but with fire. Let every act be a statement. If this is my last, let it be worthy. And that is the 10th lesson. Time. It never raises its voice. It doesn't beg you to notice it. It just leaves, minute by minute, breath by breath. Life, dissolving in silence. This is the 11th lesson. Respect time. For it is the only currency that cannot be earned, only spent, and you are spending it now. Right now. Not later. Not tomorrow. Now, every hesitation, every indulgence in distraction, every argument about things that do not matter, is a withdrawal from your one and only account, and no one tells you the balance. You don't know how much is left. That's the deal. The gods gave you a soul and a clock, but they didn't give you the time. You just live until you don't. Seneca said, "It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste much of it." That truth should shake you, because the tragedy is not that life ends, it's that so much of it is unlived. Wasted in delay, in distraction, in habits we didn't choose but never questioned, in dreams we never acted on, in conversations that meant nothing, in people who drained us, in stories about the past that no longer deserve to be retold. And all the while, time keeps walking. She doesn't look back. She doesn't pause when you feel sorry for yourself. She doesn't speed up when you feel bored. She just moves. And if you don't move with her, you get left behind. Not physically, existentially. You start becoming a shell, going through the motions, nodding your way through life, while something inside of you goes silent. But the Stoic refuses this sleep. He wakes, not just in body, but in soul. He does not wait to feel ready. He does not wait for the perfect time. He understands the perfect time is a lie. The only real time is now. This moment, this minute, this breath. And how you use it will determine whether your life is yours, or just a copy of someone else's expectations. So what are you doing with your time? Not in theory, in practice. Today. Right now. Are you speaking truth? Are you living aligned? Are you creating something that will last beyond applause? Are you spending your time as if you knew it was limited? Because it is. And here's the paradox. When you start treating time like it's sacred, you stop rushing. You slow down. You say no more often. You listen deeper. You let go faster. You waste less. You begin to live fully, not frantically. Because a man in control of his time is not a man in a hurry. He is selective, intentional. He doesn't chase every opportunity. He chooses what matters. He doesn't burn himself to prove something. He burns only for what he believes in. And this clarity gives him power, not over others, over his day, over his energy, over his focus, and most of all, over his presence. Because when you own your time, you own your mind. You stop reacting. You start designing. You stop rushing toward an imaginary future. You start honoring the moment you're in. And this moment, it's not small. It's the only place anything real has ever happened. It's the only place you can speak virtue. It's the only place you can act with justice. It's the only place you can love someone, forgive someone, carry your weight, Do the hard thing. Breathe the clean breath. Make a different choice. This moment is your kingdom. Guard it. Don't let it slip away while your mind wanders through timelines that don't exist. Because time is not a thing you use. Time is the thing that uses you. If you're not paying attention, but if you are, you become unshakable. You become present. And the man who is truly present is truly alive. That is the 11th lesson. Let go. Not in defeat, in power. This is the 12th and final lesson. Let go of what is not yours to carry, and live fully before you leave. Because after everything, after the discipline, the clarity, the silence, the struggle, the solitude, the truth, there is only this: release. Release of the outcomes, release of the applause, release of the story you've told yourself about who you must be, release of the need to win, to be remembered, to control what cannot be tamed. What remains is stillness, not emptiness. Essence. You've carried the weight. You've endured the noise. You've risen from the fall. Now breathe. You've done your part. You don't need to grip so tightly. You don't need to prove anymore. You don't need to carry the past like a badge or a burden. It taught you. Let it go. You don't need to hold on to people who have left. They serve their role. Let them go. You don't need to keep running towards something outside of you. What matters was never out there. It was always in you. You, present. You, aligned. You, clean. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Soon you will be ashes or bones, a name, or not even that. What matters is how you lived. What matters is who you were when no one looked." So live, not to build a monument, to leave no debris, to live so rightly, so presently, so silently aligned, that you leave nothing broken behind you, only clarity, only grace, only a trail of actions that spoke louder than words. That's it. That's the way. Not more, not bigger, not faster, cleaner, quieter, straighter. And then, let go. Let go of the role you played. Let go of the wounds you wore like identity. Let go of the outcome you chased so long it became a prison. You are not that. You never were. You were the one choosing. You were the one breathing through it. You were the one carrying the fire, even in silence. You were the one showing up when it was cold, when it was unclear, when it was thankless. And that is enough. You lived rightly, and a life lived rightly leaves nothing undone, nothing unsaid, nothing in need of fixing at the very end. It just ends clean. And that's not sad. That's sacred, because you can finally bow with no fear and say, "I did not waste it. I lived as best I could. I stood for what I believed. I endured what came. I walked with truth. I bowed to no lie. I loved what was mine to love. And I let go when the time came." That is the Stoic way, not perfection. Presence, not control. Clarity, not immortality. Dignity. Let the world keep running. You are finished, not because you're empty, because you're complete. And now, you rest. No regret, no unfinished battle, no desperate reaching, only stillness, only peace, only the final breath. Not resisted, but released. That is the final lesson.